The labyrinthine politics of earning a UFC title shot have ensnared Arman Tsarukyan in a particularly frustrating bind, where past missteps and moments of lost composure now weigh as heavily as his impressive in-cage victories. UFC CEO Dana White has peeled back the curtain slightly on the decision to bypass the division's top contender for the interim lightweight title fight at UFC 324, revealing a verdict influenced not by a lack of skill, but by a pattern of professional complications. While Tsarukyan's devastating last-minute withdrawal from a scheduled championship bout with Islam Makhachev last year due to a back injury remains the foundational mark against his reliability, White indicated it was not the only one. The promotion's calculus now includes what White vaguely termed man shit, a clear reference to Tsarukyan's volatile behavior, most notably his aggressive, premeditated headbutt on Dan Hooker during their ceremonial weigh-in stare-down. This incident, which required security intervention to prevent a full-blown melee, appears to have been a tipping point. In White's view, it transformed Tsarukyan from a merely unlucky contender into an unpredictable one. 100% a lot of things have factored in, White admitted, explicitly linking Tsarukyan's conduct to his snub. For the UFC, which was engineering a landmark event for its new partnership with Paramount+, the choice between the explosive but potentially erratic Tsarukyan and the bankable, headline-ready star power of Paddy Pimblett became clearer. The promotion opted for the fighter perceived as a safer bet for a smooth promotion and a guaranteed spectacle inside the cage, rather than risking another unpredictable moment outside of it. The result is a stark lesson in the holistic nature of championship contention in the modern UFC. Tsarukyan's 5-fight win streak and his clinical submission of the very man he headbutted, Dan Hooker, are undeniable credentials, yet they have been effectively neutralized by a narrative of unreliability and unprofessionalism that he has authored through his own actions. He now watches from the sidelines as a fighter with a less stringent resume competes for the belt, left to hope for a consolation prize in a high-profile bout against the winner of the Holloway-Oliveira BMF fight. The path forward requires more than just winning. It demands a period of impeccable conduct to rebuild the trust he lost, proving to the UFC brass that the fighter who deserves the title shot is not just the most dangerous one, but also the most dependable. After a brutal stretch defined by injury, defeat, and another significant surgery, former UFC light heavyweight champion Jamahal Hill is plotting his return with a renewed sense of purpose and a very specific physical goal. Having not fought since a decision loss to Khalil Rountree in June, his third consecutive defeat, Hill has spent the last several months recovering from knee surgery. While the process is familiar, having previously torn his Achilles and vacated the title without a defense, this latest rehab stint has ignited a different kind of motivation. The forced time away from the gym has, in his words, definitely lit a fire under me, creating a hunger to rebuild not just his career, but his entire physical form. Hill's roadmap for return is centered on a transformation he believes is crucial to unlocking his best self. He openly acknowledges that his physique has not always been at its peak, and he is now dedicating himself to a comprehensive strength and conditioning plan crafted with the UFC Performance Institute. His target is clear and personal. We gonna get rid of the gut, we gonna carve up, we gonna see what that best physique looks on me. This isn't just about aesthetics, it's a calculated effort to enhance his cardio, power, and durability, the very attributes that eroded during a difficult period. For Hill, getting into the best shape of his life is the foundational step to proving that the fighter who dominantly beat Glover Teixeira for the belt still exists, and that his recent skid was a product of circumstance rather than a decline in ability. The light heavyweight division has moved swiftly in his absence, but a healthy and refocused Sweet Dreams still represents a compelling and dangerous addition to the top 15. His return fight will be less about immediately jumping back into title contention and more about demonstrating that his physical and mental rebuild is complete. Opponents like a rising contender such as Alexander Rakic or a fellow former champion looking for momentum like Jan Blachowicz would provide a stern test of where the 32-year-old Hill truly stands. After years of setbacks, his comeback is being built from the ground up, starting with the relentless pursuit of a physique that can carry the championship-level talent he knows he still possesses. The most storied and venomous feud in mixed martial arts history has been violently revived, proving that time has done nothing to heal old wounds and may have, in fact, salted them further. The much-anticipated coaching stint between Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier on ALF Reality 3 was not a platform for closure or a nostalgic reunion. Instead, it served as a pressure cooker that amplified their mutual disdain to new, publicly vicious heights. In his first detailed assessment of the experience, Jones delivered a scorching, expletive-laden character assassination of his longtime rival, leaving no doubt that their legendary animosity is as potent and personal as ever. Jones's description of Cormier was relentlessly hostile and deeply personal. He labeled him a stuffy D-head and a foundational a-hole, accusing Cormier of rejecting any and all overtures toward peace. According to Jones, he made it very clear that he wants to be enemies for the rest of his life, a stance Jones cynically attributes to the financial benefits of their perpetual conflict because of how lucrative it is. His critique extended beyond their direct interactions, painting Cormier as a petty tyrant on set, a man disconnected from the fighters, rude to the production staff, and surrounded by a coterie of 10 yes-men whom he would boss around. This portrait suggests Jones views Cormier's persona not as competitive fervor, but as a core character flaw of entitlement and unpleasantness. When directly confronted with Cormier's bold challenge for a pure wrestling match, where the Olympic medalist confidently predicted a 10-0 shutout, Jones's rebuttal was characteristically psychological rather than technical. He bypassed a discussion of takedowns and positioning entirely, opting instead to reopen the deepest wounds of their past. He reminded the world of his most famous psychological victories. "I made him cry in front of the world. I got to take him off the list considered of the greatest fighters of all time." For Jones, their history isn't a series of athletic contests. It's a narrative of profound humiliation that he inflicted and Cormier has never escaped. The most forward-looking and perhaps most dismissive blow, however, was aimed at Cormier's enduring legacy. Jones shrugged off the wrestling proposition by invoking the future, specifically the potential of his prodigy, Olympic gold medalist Gable Stevenson. He prophesied that Stevenson would become 3 times the champion Daniel Cormier ever was, a claim designed to retroactively diminish everything Cormier achieved. In Jones's final, crushing analysis, no future victory in any arena could change the fundamental hierarchy. "He'll always be in my shadow, one way or another." This statement is the thesis of their entire saga. The ALF reality experiment didn't forge a new chapter, it merely confirmed that the old one, a story of bitter resentment, psychological warfare, and a relentless battle for historical supremacy, is permanently and bitterly unfinished. The rivalry is not just alive, it has evolved into a permanent state of being. The high-profile UFC power couple narrative that captivated fans at the start of the new year has dissolved almost as swiftly as it appeared. Light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira and women's flyweight contender Tracy Cortez have announced an amicable split, bringing a sudden end to a romance they had only just made public with celebratory New Year's Eve posts just over a week prior. Pereira took to Instagram to deliver the news directly to his followers, offering a respectful and concise explanation. "I would like to communicate with you guys that even though me and Tracy shared great moments together, we decided it would be better for the both of us to go our separate ways," he wrote. "I wish her nothing but the best in her journey." The brief relationship had been a major topic of discussion, not only due to Pereira's superstar status, but also because of Cortez's previous highly publicized engagement to top featherweight Brian Ortega. The rapid turnaround from public celebration to polite separation underscores the intense scrutiny and pressure that can accompany the personal lives of elite fighters. True to his stoic and disciplined public persona, Pereira wasted no time in refocusing on his craft. Mere moments after the announcement, he posted a video of himself pushing through a grueling training session in torrential rain, accompanied by his trademark phrase, "God is good, motivated, chama." The visual served as an immediate signal that his competitive drive remains untouched. With their personal chapter closed, the focus for both athletes now sharpens entirely on a critical 2026 inside the octagon. Pereira stands at the pinnacle, having violently reclaimed the light heavyweight title by stopping Magomed Ankalaev in their October rematch. His next move is a major point of speculation, though a marquee clash with Jon Jones seems off the table, with Jones himself suggesting the UFC brass would not approve it. Cortez, meanwhile, faces a vital rebuilding year. Still ranked within the flyweight top 10, she needs to rebound from a submission loss to Erin Blanchfield last November and string together victories to re-enter the title conversation. The end of their relationship simplifies the narrative, stripping away the celebrity coupling angle and leaving the raw, singular focus that defines both Pereira and Cortez as individual competitors, the relentless pursuit of victory and championship gold. The logistical blueprint for the most unprecedented event in combat sports history is coming into clear and astonishingly large focus. The UFC's planned card on the White House South Lawn this June, part of the nation's 250th anniversary celebrations, has moved from a fascinating concept to a massive operational undertaking. UFC CEO Dana White has pulled back the curtain on the initial attendance plans, revealing a dual-venue strategy designed to accommodate a crowd that could rival the largest in the company's history, transforming the event from an exclusive gathering into a public spectacle of monumental proportions. The core experience, as White detailed, will be an intimate yet surreal affair directly on the White House grounds. Approximately 5,000 attendees will be seated on the South Lawn itself, forming the live audience for the fights. This privileged group will witness the uniquely cinematic scene of fighters making a walk unlike any other, starting from the Oval Office and proceeding directly to the octagon. This element alone ensures the event's place in sporting lore. However, the UFC's vision extends far beyond the White House fence. To meet the overwhelming public demand and create a true festival atmosphere, the promotion plans to activate the vast Ellipse Park directly across the street. It is here that the event's true scale becomes jaw-dropping. White stated plans to host an additional 85,000 fans in the park who will watch the action broadcast on enormous screens while enjoying live music and ancillary entertainment throughout the day. This dual-side approach means a combined potential live audience nearing 90,000 people, a figure that would instantly place it among the UFC's highest attended events ever, akin to a stadium show, but with the unparalleled backdrop of the nation's capital. White framed it as a week-long takeover of Washington, D.C., with lots of different things for fight fans leading up to the historic Saturday. While the specific fight lineup remains the card's most closely guarded secret, the staggering scale of the planned audience and the symbolic weight of the venue leave little room for a modest roster. The UFC is all but guaranteeing multiple championship bouts and the participation of the promotion's most iconic stars, fighters whose names can anchor a global happening of this magnitude. The UFC is not merely hosting a fight card at a famous address, it is orchestrating a national moment, a week of fan celebration crescendoing into a night where the rituals of mixed martial arts intersect with the symbols of American history, creating a one-of-one spectacle designed to be remembered for decades.
The brief but very public professional divorce between former middleweight champion Sean Strickland and his head coach Eric Nicksick has officially been reversed. The two have reconciled and will reunite for Strickland's crucial main event showdown against the surging Anthony "Fluffy" Hernandez at UFC Houston on February 21st. This mending of fences comes after a period of tension that erupted following Strickland's lackluster performance in his title rematch against Dricus du Plessis. Nicksick's public description of that fight as uninspired led to a swift and decisive reaction from Strickland, who removed his longtime coach from his corner. However, after a period of reflection and, more importantly, a direct and honest conversation, both parties have identified the core issue not as a betrayal, but as a significant failure in communication during a personally taxing time for both men. Nicksick, delving into the circumstances that led to the split, pointed to a perfect storm of external pressures that eroded their normally tight-knit dynamic. He was grappling with serious concerns about his father's health, compounded by the relentless travel and time away from home that defines a high-level fight camp. Strickland, for his part, was managing injuries and the unique psychological burden of preparing for a championship rematch. This confluence of stressors created a gap in their usual synergy. It really just boils down to the fact that we just gotta be better at our communication with one another, Nicksick conceded. The criticism he leveled, while harsh, was ultimately rooted in a deep-seated belief in Strickland's ceiling. Strickland, in turn, came to understand that the tough words came from a place of investment, not malice. He knew the bottom line was, I just have a high standard of expectations for him, because I know what he's capable of, and he knows that I love him and I care for him, Nicksick explained. Their reunion is strategically vital and timed for a moment of maximum consequence. Strickland stands at a crossroads. A decisive victory is non-negotiable if he hopes to immediately re-enter the championship conversation. The opponent awaiting him, however, is arguably the most dangerous and overlooked contender in the division. Nicksick holds Anthony Hernandez in exceptionally high esteem, having watched him firsthand defeat his teammate Roman Dolidze, and he is labeled Fluffy as championship caliber. Preparing for Hernandez's relentless pace, elite conditioning, and suffocating top game demands absolute unity and clarity within Strickland's camp. By addressing their personal rift head-on and recommitting to their partnership, Strickland and Nicksick have successfully cleared a major internal obstacle. The path forward is now singularly focused on solving the complex puzzle of Hernandez, halting his 8-fight win streak, and reigniting Strickland's own journey back to the top of the 185-pound division with the trusted voice of his head coach back in his ear.
An intriguing crossroads fight at bantamweight is close to being finalized, as multiple reports confirm the UFC is targeting a bout between seasoned veteran Rob Font and the surging, youthful phenom Raul Rosas Jr. for UFC 326 on March 7th. This matchup is a classic style and experience clash. For the 37-year-old Font, ranked number 14, this is a critical opportunity to re-enter the win column and reassert his place in the top 15 after a unanimous decision loss to David Martinez last September. That fight itself was a short-notice replacement, as Font was originally scheduled to face Rosas at Noche UFC before the younger fighter withdrew. Now, Font gets the originally intended matchup, a chance for redemption and to prove his sharp boxing and experience can halt the hype train of a much younger opponent. For the 21-year-old Raul Rosas Jr., this represents the most significant step up in competition of his burgeoning UFC career. El Niño Problema has rebounded impressively from his sole professional loss, racking up a 4-fight win streak that includes 2 finishes. A victory over a durable, ranked veteran like Font would be a massive statement, instantly propelling him into the upper tier of the 135-pound division and validating the immense potential he has shown since debuting as the youngest fighter on the UFC roster. The bout is a perfect addition to a UFC 326 card, headlined by the highly anticipated BMF title rematch between Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. It offers a compelling narrative of the old guard versus the new wave, with Font's technical striking and poise tested against Rosas' aggressive grappling and relentless pace. Contracts are expected to be issued shortly, setting the stage for a pivotal March showdown in Las Vegas. The long-running saga of Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler appears to be inching closer than ever to a tangible reality, with the unprecedented backdrop of the UFC White House event on June 14th now serving as the central focus. Following years of delays, cancellations, and intense speculation, both fighters are now publicly aligning on the same specific goal. Chandler, in a fresh interview, has provided the most concrete update to date, stating that active conversations are being had with the UFC about finalizing the bout for the South Lawn. Chandler's assessment is notably optimistic, claiming the odds are higher than they ever have been. His confidence stems from a clear convergence of desires. Conor wants to fight me at the White House. I want to fight him at the White House. He points to McGregor's recent social media activity, which has included posting videos and highlights of Chandler as a signal of mutual intent. This public reciprocation marks a shift from the one-sided call-outs that have characterized much of the buildup. However, Chandler also acknowledges the promotion's penchant for secrecy, warning fans they might have to wait longer for an official announcement as the UFC builds its historic first card on the White House grounds. The timeline suggests both men are preparing for a full 6-month training camp aimed at a summer showdown. For McGregor, it represents a chance to return from a lengthy absence punctuated by a leg break and a recent anti-doping suspension, reclaiming the global spotlight in a setting unlike any other. For Chandler, who has waded through 2 years of on and off negotiations and suffered 2 losses after the fight fell through in 2024, it is the culmination of a frustrating pursuit and a chance to secure the most lucrative fight of his career. While the UFC has yet to make the fight official, the pieces, fighter willingness, an iconic date, and a singular venue are finally falling into place, making the long-anticipated clash feel less like a rumor and more like an inevitable headline for the most unique event in company history. The path to the undisputed UFC Lightweight Championship, which was supposed to be cleared by an interim title fight at UFC 324, is now looking increasingly murky and uncertain. While the promotion initially framed the bout between Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett as a direct ticket to a unification fight with champion Ilia Topuria, doubt is now seeping in from the very top. UFC President Dana White, who once confidently stated the interim winner would welcome Topuria back, has notably shifted his language. "We'll see how that plays out throughout the year," White said recently, a stark contrast to previous assurances and a direct reflection of the severe, unresolved personal and legal crisis engulfing Topuria. Topuria's hiatus, prompted by his allegations of being the victim of an extortion plot involving fabricated domestic abuse claims, has evolved from a private matter into a major disruption for the 155-pound division. The situation is legally complex and emotionally charged, with no clear timeline for resolution. This ambiguity is forcing the UFC to publicly hedge its bets. The interim title, created to maintain momentum, now risks leading to a champion in limbo, an interim holder with no clear date or guarantee of facing the undisputed king. Paddy Pimblett, one of the men fighting for that interim belt, has already vocalized the growing possibility that the division may need to move on entirely. He suggested that if Topuria cannot return by mid-2026, he might have to vacate his belt, a scenario that would see the UFC 324 winner potentially upgraded to undisputed champion without a unification bout. This isn't just fighter speculation, it's a logical conclusion drawn from the precedents set in other divisions stalled by a champion's indefinite absence. The stakes for the Gaethje vs. Pimblett main event have therefore been subtly but significantly altered. The winner will still claim interim gold in a huge career milestone, but the promise attached to that gold is now conditional. They aren't just fighting for a shot at Topuria, they're fighting to become the de facto active leader of the division during a period of unprecedented uncertainty. The UFC is preparing for all outcomes, a triumphant Pereira return to a mega fight later in the year, or the difficult decision to strip a champion embroiled in personal turmoil and crown a new one outright. For now, the only certainty is that the future of the lightweight title will be decided not just in the octagon on January 24th, but in a Spanish courtroom in the private life of Ilia Pereira. The blueprint for Sean O'Malley's comeback is being drawn not for a spectacular flash of violence, but for a sustained, grinding war of attrition. According to his head coach, Tim Welch, the plan for UFC 324 is to prepare for a 15-minute brutal war against the dangerous Song Yadong. This represents a significant tactical shift in mindset for Suga, who is known as one of the sport's premier knockout artists. Welch acknowledges Yadong's threats, comparing his speed and spring to Marlon Chito Vera, but noting he is even more dangerous. The explicit strategy, however, is not to meet fire with fire in a reckless exchange, but to systematically break Yadong down over time. Welch's prediction is notably devoid of a highlight reel finish. Instead, he envisions a dominant decision built on a multifaceted attack. We are preparing to beat his body up, to cut his face, to punch his head, potentially choke him, maybe take him down, ride him a little bit. This holistic game plan suggests O'Malley's camp is focusing on versatility and cardio, aiming to prove he can win a grueling fight against a top-tier opponent, not just a quick one. The goal is a comprehensive whooping, a performance that leaves no doubt about his elite status after a two-fight skid. The stakes of this approach are directly tied to the title picture. Welch openly admits that a dominant win could, and in their minds should, catapult O'Malley right back into a championship rematch with Petr Yan. The history is there. O'Malley's split decision win over Yan in 2022 earned him his first title shot. Now, with Yan having reclaimed the belt, the narrative for a second act is perfectly set. Welch believes the possibility of that shot will bring out the best performance in O'Malley, but he also respects the daunting challenge. Petr Yan for 5 rounds, we are going to have to be ready for that. For O'Malley then, the fight against Yadong is a dual-purpose mission. Exercise the demons of his recent losses with a punishing, smart performance, and in doing so, earn the right to complete his career's central narrative by chasing the title back from the man he first had to beat to get there. The quiet period of Dustin Poirier's retirement appears to be stirring with the possibility of a new, unexpected challenge. After hanging up his gloves following a final battle against Max Holloway, the Diamond has been firm in dismissing any notion of a return to the UFC's grueling MMA landscape. However, the competitive fire that defined his legendary career hasn't extinguished, and it may find a new outlet in the growing world of high-profile grappling. According to a revealing statement from Hype FC CEO Arman Tsarukyan, serious conversations have taken place about Poirier stepping onto the mats for a special attraction match against Arman Tsarukyan, the very man who occupies the top contender spot in the UFC lightweight division Poirier once ruled as interim champion. This potential booking is a masterstroke of intrigue. For Tsarukyan, it's an opportunity to test his elite skills against a future Hall of Famer, adding a monumental scalp to his grappling portfolio during a frustrating stretch where the UFC has yet to grant him his promised title shot. A match with Poirier would command mainstream attention far beyond the typical grappling event, elevating Tsarukyan's profile in a way that aligns with his claim to being the division's true number one. For Poirier, it presents a compelling and unique draw. It's a competitive endeavor without the brutal weight cuts and punishing striking exchanges of an MMA fight, a chance to engage in a pure battle of technique and will against a younger, hungry lion. He's already expressed openness to a boxing match with Nate Diaz. A grappling superfight fits a similar mold of a legacy-enhancing spectacle outside the traditional UFC structure. The dynamic is made even more compelling by their shared gem, American Top Team. This isn't a feud born of trash talk or rankings bitterness. It's a potential showcase between respected peers. It transforms the narrative from a personal grudge match to a celebration of martial arts skill, where the goal is to test each other in a different arena. Martirosyan's comments add a layer of suspense, noting that while Poirier hasn't signed, he is the primary target for February. The CEO further teased that if not Poirier, they have another major, secretive return in mind that the whole MMA community is waiting for. Whether it's Poirier or this mystery figure, Hype FC is clearly aiming for a headline-grabbing moment. For Poirier, the offer represents a tempting crossroads: remain in a peaceful retirement or answer the call for one more unique challenge, trading the roar of the UFC crowd for the focused intensity of the grappling mats and adding a fascinating final footnote to an iconic combat sports journey. The UFC's return to Mexico City on February 28th is shaping up to be a pivotal night for several fighters and divisions, anchored by a main event that carries the weight of a nation's hopes. At the top of the card, Brandon Moreno steps back into the spotlight in his home country, headlining against the relentless Asu Almabayev. For Moreno, the former flyweight champion, this isn't just another fight, it's a calculated step on the path back to the title he once held, a chance to reignite his championship trajectory in front of the fans who have followed his journey from the beginning. Almabayev, however, represents a perilous and often overlooked hurdle, a grinding, pressure-heavy stylist who would love nothing more than to derail those plans in spectacular fashion and claim the biggest win of his career by silencing the Mexican crowd. Just before that headline bout, the women's bantamweight division offers a classic crossroads clash in the co-main event. Macy Chiasson, a ranked contender, now backed firmly against the wall after 2 consecutive losses, faces a moment of truth. A third straight defeat could see her tumble from relevance in a deep division, making this a must-win performance to prove she still belongs among the elite. Her opponent, Ailin Perez, embodies the exact opposite momentum. Riding a quiet but impressive 5-fight win streak, Perez has steadily climbed the rankings. A decisive victory over an established name like Chiasson on a major card would be the statement performance she needs to loudly announce herself as a legitimate title threat and potentially skip ahead in the queue of contenders. Beyond those featured bouts, the card is rich with stories that will resonate throughout the arena. The local crowd will have a strong focal point in flyweight Edgar Chairez, who returns to action looking to deliver a performance for his countrymen. The event also serves as a platform for the next wave of talent, featuring the undefeated prospect Imanol Rodriguez in a tough matchup against Kevin Borjas, a fight that will test whether Rodriguez is ready for the next level. Further down the lineup, veterans like Christian Quiñones and Santiago Luna look to hold their ground, while Contender Series graduates Damian Pinas and Wes Schultz face off in a middleweight bout where the winner takes a meaningful step forward. With the promotion promising more fights to come, the night in Mexico City is evolving into a comprehensive showcase, a blend of high-stakes drama for established stars, critical tests for rising names, and the electric atmosphere that only a home country hero like Brandon Moreno can generate. It's a card built to deliver significance up and down the lineup, setting the stage for pivotal career turns across multiple weight classes. The idea of a wrestling match between Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier has ignited a fierce debate that cuts to the very core of their legendary rivalry. While Cormier, an Olympic-level wrestler and NCAA Division I champion, has boldly predicted he would dominate Jones 10-0 on the mats, not everyone in the fight community is buying his absolute confidence. Fellow former champion Kamaru Usman has stepped in to challenge that narrative, arguing that the world severely underestimates Jones's otherworldly athletic talent and wrestling acumen. Usman's critique is founded on a key distinction: the difference between a credentialed career in pure wrestling and innate fight-applied talent. He acknowledges Cormier's superior pedigree, but warns against using that as the sole metric for a hypothetical clash. Because Jon Jones never went to Division I and had the accolades and all of that, people sleep on just how talented Jon Jones is, Usman stated. He believes Jones possessed the raw ability to have been a multiple-time Division I champion had he chosen that path. More importantly, Usman points to the evidence from their actual fights. He recalls watching Jones decide to wrestle and make people look bad, noting that in their UFC encounters, Jones was no slouch in their wrestling exchanges. For Usman, a match between them would not be the simple technical whitewash Cormier projects. It would be a clash between Cormier's perfected fundamentals and Jones's freakish, intuitive mastery of leverage and movement. This disagreement between champions adds a fascinating new layer to the Jones-Cormier saga as they prepare to face off as coaches on ALF reality. It transforms the discussion from a nostalgic what-if into a genuine technical dispute. Cormier's claim is a statement of pride in his lifelong craft, an assertion that his foundation is unshakable. Usman's rebuttal is a testament to Jones's unique, once-in-a-generation athletic genius, suggesting that formal credentials can't fully capture his ability to dominate any physical domain. The debate itself becomes a proxy for their rivalry, Cormier's disciplined, honorable grind versus Jones's unpredictable, prodigious gift. Until they ever step on a mat, the question remains unresolved. But Usman has ensured that Cormier's predicted 10-0 shutout is no longer taken as gospel, framing a potential wrestling match as a far more intriguing and competitive spectacle.